I am the founder of the Goddess Pathways program, which teaches women how to really tap into their intuition, raise their confidence level so that they can really step into that magic of life, because life is magical. One of the modules in this program is called Divine Elements, Sacred Elements, and we look at earth, air, fire, water from that perspective, and which goddesses are associated to each element, and how these elements can help us do different magical things in our everyday lives, from setting up altars to asking for help in different using water, or if we want to do some divination using earth energy. And so today I'm really excited to be chatting with my friend and colleague, Leah Nash, because she teaches elements from a different perspective. So it's very enriching. And this is a Chinese 5 elements. So hi, Leah.
Hello. Hello.
So glad to have you here today. So we'll start with a little bit of an introduction so we know a bit more about you. And then we'll dive into the 5 elements. And this is really just an overview, peeps, because we can talk for hours, and Leah and I have already talked for quite a few hours on the different elements, and this stuff is real. It really helps. It helped me in my business, just knowing how and when to get some help, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So for now, about Leah. So where are you? Where are you located first?
I'm in Greenville, South Carolina. So I was in the Midwest for many years, and I'm so happy to not, as we're starting to move into winter now, I'm so happy to not be there anymore. So I'm loving it down here in the South.
Yeah, you got nice sunshine coming in.
Yeah.
Rainy and fall up here in Canada.
Yeah.
So when were you first introduced to the 5 elements?
I was first introduced to 5 elements really 20 years ago. I made a major career shift. So I had always been a horse person, and for a number of years I was out of horses after I had moved to the Midwest. And I made some kind of big, bold career decisions, and I got some training as an equine massage therapist.
Cool.
And which was like, no. And one of my very first mentors as I started my practice up was a veterinarian who specialized in Chinese medicine and chiropractic, as well as, regular veterinary medicine. And so working with her, I came to learn about Chinese medicine and 5 elements. And she did a lot of teaching with the work that she did, and especially in '96, it was all kind of new stuff. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of an interesting introduction, because I didn't learn it first through humans. I learned it first through animals. And I think that really cemented for me the holistic nature of 5 elements and Chinese medicine. It is, it's 5 elements all the time, everywhere, always going. And then it's been just kind of woven through my career ever since then.
Right. So when did you choose to work with people as well as horses and dogs too, I think?
Yeah. So I started with the horses and dogs, and I'm like, I don't want to work with people. So after years in customer service, I was like, no more people.
Yeah.
Massage is really different, So I would work on the horse, and then people would say, I've got this in my shoulder or their neck or something. And I work on horses, so I realized that I needed something that I could offer for them. So I ended up taking one course, a chair massage course, which led to a couple of years later, I went to human massage school. It's funny to kind of designate human massage school, and got a diploma, and then that just built, because from that very first course, it just really whetted my appetite for continuing education. So, and the chair massage course was also a Japanese style of chair massage. So it was using acupressure and dealing again with the elements. So when I went to massage school the first time, I had a lot of courses that were dealing with Oriental, Chinese or Japanese style treatments and modalities. So again, 5 elements. And then I did a lot of continuing ed over the years. And then I ended up getting an associate degree, going back to school and getting an associate degree in massage. And that was heavily filled with more Chinese medicine-based courses. So I just, it started with the horses and dogs, and then once the people came in, then really the continuing ed and the appetite for learning just kind of exploded.
Right.
And through all of it, that basis of 5 elements in Chinese medicine is just, kind of always been there for me. Mm-hmm. And, it's, as you said before, we could talk for days about, easily. It's a giant ocean of knowledge. This has been taught for thousands of years now. Yeah. Thousands of years of research and discovery. So it's a lot, and we're going to take a little cup full of it today.
Yeah. A little thimble even.
yeah, really. This little bit, but there's so much, and I'm so grateful for it because it's, as I used it in all my massage and body work and the energy work that I did, eventually it also morphed into kind of coaching and consulting. Right. So now I do a lot of that, and that too is 5 element based. So it's a very different model for coaching and consulting because it's, it's based on this very holistic. Yeah. It has given me so much, and it's such a pleasure to work with and then share with other people as well.
Yeah. And it is such a gift to receive the coaching from you too.
Thank you.
Because it's so holistic, and you help people build their businesses and change their lives from the inside out and from who they are in their elemental makeup. So the struggle of trying to figure it all out is just lifted because you don't need to figure it out. You just start from where you are and who you are, and then work with what you have instead of trying to work with what you don't have. So
right. Yeah. Absolutely. It makes such a difference. And because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs and other holistic professionals, other kinds of heart-centered, passionate people who are doing things that they love, and they got into what they're doing because they love that thing, not because it's like a business thing. So sometimes they struggle with the business, and the one of the blessings of this type of approach is that holistic nature of it. So it helps you sort out the business stuff, but so many times the issues that people are having aren't actually with the business itself. Mm-hmm. It's something in their personal life, or something from their past that has kind of put them in a circumstance that they tend to think in a certain way or do certain things that aren't necessarily helping them with the business, right?
Exactly.
So if they just get business help, it doesn't address any of that.
Exactly.
And this process does. So it looks at all of that and helps you get everything. I do that because I'm always thinking of the circle.
Right. Because all the 5 elements are presented.
5 elements. Right, and it brings it all together, in the personal life, the professional life, the business pieces, all of that. So, yeah.
So let's dive into the elements then. Which element shall we start with?
Why don't we start with water?
Okay.
That's what I usually start with for people, and where the cycle, it's a circle, so you could pick one and go from there, but so water was what we would start with. And if I'm gesturing, doing my circle thing, we're going to think of water down here at the bottom.
Okay.
So kind of like a 6 o'clock position. Right. And what would you like to know about water? There's so much to it.
Yeah. So how would someone recognize a water element in their life?
Okay, so a lot of, do you want, let's, maybe if we talk about like in themselves, in their personality.
Okay.
Characteristics, does that sound good?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so, someone who has a lot of water in them, and let me just kind of pre-frame this by saying, one of the blessings of this type of personal development work, the 5 element based development, personal development work, it's unlike a lot of personal development work, it's not so subjective. So it's not like you take a big test and say, I think I fall more into this category.
Right.
We actually know what elemental makeup you were born with. We know by the characteristics that we see in your face, so your physical makeup, and then also by the energetic makeup that we know from when you came into the cycle of elements, which we can maybe talk about later, but there's a pattern and cycle and flow to the way that the elements move through time as well.
Right.
And so which ones of those were at play at the time we came into that cycle, so when we were born. And in this case, it's not astrology or numerology related, it's just where you came into that cycle.
Right.
Then we know the energetic elemental makeup for you as well. So it's all a known factor.
Right.
And we all have all 5 of the elements, but we have them in different proportions.
Right.
So someone who has, thank you for that. So someone who has a lot of water, some of the things that we're going to note about them is that this is a deep person.
Right.
So, and typically they're very emotional, and yet it's not surfacey emotions, right? It's not a lot of drama. It's deep, deep stuff. And it takes a long time for that to kind of come out.
Right.
So when they do get emotional, it may be, like the guys are blowing or,
Right.
finally it goes, it took so long. You're like, why didn't you say something before? And it's just that it doesn't really occur to them, or it just takes that long for it to kind of come up and formulate into something that, would be conceivable for other people. And a lot of times people with a lot of water in their nature will feel that they're a bit not understood by others. So there can be sort of an isolated feeling. And sometimes if they feel like, well, they're not going to understand me anyway. So that also adds to the not bringing it out. So there'll be a lot that's left unsaid with the other person. And with all of that, still, they have great intuition. They have a fabulous creative mind. They're great with fantasy. So, that imagination can just run wild. And that's something that can serve us well and can serve us not so well.
Yeah.
So, let me give you a quick example of how that can serve us not so well, right? Okay. So, say you're in a relationship with someone who is very, very watery, and they don't speak about something that has been an issue for them. When they're keeping it on the inside and they're feeling that you won't understand, another thing that can happen for them is that they'll start to create stories in their mind because they hold so much. They also then assume that others are as well.
Right.
We tend to think that people in the world are just like us or should be, right? So if we're someone who holds a lot back, we're going to assume that others are as well.
Right.
Which is not always the case. So you've got a watery person that you're in a relationship with, and there's some issue there, and they're not talking to you about it, and they're going to be assuming that you are having things that you're not talking about either. And then when it finally does come out, what you hear from them may be some fantastical story that has nothing to do with what has actually happened.
Right.
So then it can be quite a challenge to unravel that.
Right.
And, kind of get back to the truth of a, a factual situation. And that's when things are not in a balanced state. Right. Certainly not every water person is like that. That's just kind of one of the potentials of if things are off kilter.
Right.
That's what it can look like.
Right. And you said there were some physical characteristics too for watery people.
Right. So if we're looking at the face, one of the things that we can see most easily for people who have a lot of water that is appearing in their physical makeup is a lot of times they'll have a widow's peak. Okay. Or they'll also have a very rounded and a kind of a domed forehead. Okay. Familiar. And, that's always a great sign of somebody who's got a lot of water in their physical makeup. They tend to have a softer jaw. Right. Not a really sharp, really well-defined jaw. Right. And the kind of their characteristics in their face overall will be a little softer, not really angular. And there's a skin tone that kind of goes with that. That can take a little more practice recognizing. I'll tell you somebody who has, you could kind of begin to notice that with them is George Clooney. And who doesn't look at George Clooney? But you can see there's kind of a blackish underlying skin tone. Right. Very subtle, but it's kind of there. And that's also physically a water trait. Okay.
Because the color of water and that wheel is black, right? Yeah. So if you want to add water element, let's say to an altar or to your house, that would be the color black.
Yep, black would be great to use.
Okay, cool. So the next element on the wheel then, what would that be?
That would be wood. So,
Wood.
Yeah, so from water feeds wood. Each element in the cycle feeds the one that comes after it. So it's
Okay.
so if we started down here with water, and next up we've got wood. And wood is all about action, get it done. These are our Nike people. Let's do it. And not spend a whole lot of time trying to figure it out. Just go, get in action, get it done.
Right.
They really love bottom lining it. Don't give me an excessive details, please. And, just get right to it. So it's great to have some nice woody people around you to kind of keep things moving.
Right.
Yeah.
You can see a little bit of the conflict there. If someone is really watery in the negative, and then you have someone who's very woodsy, instead of let's wait, it's like, no, let's go, go, go.
Right. And here's another great thing, because the 5 elements too is all about relationships, and they're very much like family members,
Right.
And sometimes they are getting along and sometimes they're not, and they all have their little quirks. So a watery person is non-linear, right? They flow, and they're off here, they can have issues with time because they're just, that's not who they are, right? Like, well,
Lots of yoga people are like that.
Lots of that, and a person with a lot of wood in their nature is like, get it done, right? So they tend to be very linear, and 1, 2, 3, and much more about the time thing, so let's get it done. Are we on schedule and moving on? And tracking things, getting all of that nature. So that can be kind of a conflict.
Okay.
And of course, they need each other. So a woody person, when things are off kilter, one of the things that wood does really well is it has a great sense of judgment and just logistical, logical type of thinking.
Right.
And sometimes when that is in the off kilter, what can happen is that they can be overly judgmental, and they like to get things done, right? So that judgment comes fast.
Right.
So in a nanosecond, they put you in a pigeonhole, whether you fit there or not.
Okay.
They've already made up that decision,
Right.
and most often they won't come back to that
Right.
to revisit it. They're just like, nope, I put you there. You're, that's who you are.
Right.
And they can always look again. So attention to detail can be a challenge because they kind of bust through things. And that skeptical, because of the logical thinking, they're kind of judging things, that can come out as a skeptical aspect to their nature, and a critical one. So a lot of times that could be critical towards people on the outside.
Right.
It could also be a really, really serious inner critic.
Right.
And the drive can come out very much as a competitive drive.
Right.
And sometimes, again, that can be with others, or it can be, in inner, towards ourself.
Right.
And nothing is ever quite, and win at all costs, Don't get into an argument with a woody person. Ready to,
So how would I recognize a woody person with their physicality?
With their physicality. So a couple of really kind of easy characteristics to notice with a woody person. Eyebrows are typically a wood area of the face. So if you see someone who has really straight eyebrows, that's and really strong eyebrows. Okay. So straight eyebrows is a sign of a very woody type of mind. So they're going to be, and it's quite literally very linear thinkers, right? It's very easy to see on the face.
Right.
So you can just kind of give it to them straight. The jaw is another area. So a person with a lot of wood in their nature will have a very strong and well-defined jaw.
Okay.
And if you've ever seen somebody, and you'll see this like in a lot of actors and performance, people who are on camera and everything, there's a lot of competition and drive needed to succeed in that type of industry. So you see that characteristic a lot
I saw a commercial yesterday with Katy Perry. Her makeup, and you can see the big black eyebrows, and
yeah,
would that be wood?
Yeah, really strong eyebrows are a sign of good, strong wood. And even if the shape is different, if they're very strong, that's, that's woody, and that jaw. And so like in a lot of athletes,
Mm-hmm.
you see really woody, really strong jaws. And especially if they're really strong back here at the jaw.
Right.
This is in Chinese medicine, they refer to this is like the root of the jaw, like a root of a tree.
Okay.
And really strong there. That's someone who's got a lot of wood. They're going to be very rooted in their thinking and their judgment. And once they've made it, they're pretty much going to stay with it. Now, as I say that, I want to add a caveat, because in this particular aspect of 5 elements, they also take some of the elements, not all of them, but some of the elements, wood and earth and metal, get also divided up further. So water is just whole as it is, and fire, which we'll talk about next, is whole as it is. But wood, they also further define into yin wood and yang wood.
Okay, so the female element and the more masculine element.
Right. And gender-wise, it doesn't matter, what our gender is. We could be expressing either one of those. So the difference between yin wood and yang wood, with yang wood, that's very much that Nike that we've been talking about. So go get it done. This is, think of like early springtime when the plants are just shooting up out of the ground.
Right.
And they're not real complex, right? They're just full of that drive to grow.
Right.
So it's a simple seedling that is popping up. You got one stalk, a couple of leaves. We're good to go, baby. Right? You're going to need that. Now, yin wood is the next phase that comes after that, when that growth becomes more complex.
Right.
So further leaves are developing. We're starting to branch off, and we're getting lots of other things coming in. So there's still a drive to grow, yet it's pulling in many, many more options. So if we looked at it from a natural type of metaphor, yang wood would be like an oak tree.
Okay.
Very strong, straight, not a whole lot of flexibility in it. You don't see a lot of oak trees bending so much in the roots, right? Yin wood would be more like bamboo.
Okay.
So bamboo grows with many, many stalks, right? It always has new shoots popping up everywhere, right? And it's much more flexible. So bamboo can bend all over the place.
Right.
And the way that we see that in people is the people who have a lot more of that yang wood will be more fixed and rooted, right? More one track, more bottom line.
Right.
And the people who have more of that yin wood, they can see a whole lot of options.
Okay.
Right? So they can be very, very flexible, and sometimes they can be over flexible. So they can be both a really great influence, and they can also be easily influenced.
Okay.
So they've made a decision, but now somebody says, oh, but what about this? And now they're second guessing it.
Right.
So whereas wood is all about go and get it done, it can also fall into procrastination.
Okay.
If we're like, now I'm seeing all these options and I can't make a decision.
Right.
And overwhelm sets in and lots of spinning and we go nowhere.
Right.
So even just from kind of these 2 elements that we've talked about so far, you can see how I always describe the 5 elements as being elegantly simple and exquisitely complex. It's just the 5 elements. It's a science based on nature.
Yeah.
It's very simple, very straightforward, and yet it's also very complex. So it's there's always another level to it.
So just scratching the surface here for sure.
Totally.
So the next one you said was fire.
Fire, yes. Okay, so fire is fun.
Yeah.
Fire is, that there's an emotion associated with fire, which is joy, right?
Right.
And in Chinese medicine, they consider our consciousness as residing in the heart.
Okay.
Which is fire, right? And it's the job of the heart, of that consciousness, to rise each morning to go out throughout the day and meet with other hearts and share joy
Oh,
and
that's so beautiful.
and settle again in our heart at night.
Yeah.
And it's very kind of poetic, but I think that's a lovely way to view it. And really, that is what fire is about. It's about connecting and sharing, and so it's fun, and it's the people who are there's a lot of drama to them, and they've got the purple hair and the crazy clothes, and they're like, what? So it's
I almost put some purple hair in my hair today, and I decided not to.
You've got some, we'll talk about you later, but there's some fire there, not in your energetic makeup, but in your face.
Yeah.
So there's some of that there. So, it's your friend that's like, when you want a night out on the town, that is who you go out with, right? Because it's going to be fun. And yet there's also a quietness, because sometimes fire is more subtle and it's a little more restrained. So not everyone with a lot of fire is all wild and crazy.
You're right.
But it is very emotional. So it can flare up and it can die down. And so it can, when it's not in balance, it can really be a drama queen, It's just every little thing becomes woo! And it can really amplify and embellish. Oh, they're big embellishers. Tall tales, oh my goodness. Yeah, they could come up with a lot of those. So it has quite a range, and all of the elements do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a whole, each one is a whole, and it's this big broad spectrum. So we could have anywhere in that range that we tend to express it.
Right.
Now, a cool thing to know about that is, even if our life experience has led us to have tendencies where we express it just kind of this one range, limited, when we understand the kind of more of the full range of that element, just knowing that if we're born with that element within us, we have the whole range.
Right.
Even if we've only lived a little piece of it, even if we've only lived quiet fire, we've got some wild and crazy in this too.
Right.
And knowing that gives us more option of choice.
Yeah.
How we want to express it, which I think is a great thing. But so fire
would bring some compassion too, just giving us permission to be the full range, because sometimes we're raised to be just the quiet, the good girl, and then we don't express our crazy self so much.
Right.
So when you say, no, I have that in me and it's okay.
Yeah.
Then we can do it in a way that still feels safe, but a little bit wild once in a while. It's good.
Right, to let it out and play. And there's another aspect to the heart that really applies with the connecting with others. And they consider that to the heart there's a gate, right? And the job of that gate is to be discerning as far as who gets to come in and who doesn't, right? Yet sometimes what can happen with that gate is that if the heart gets injured, and this can happen easily for a person with a lot of fire in them, so there's something that has happened and that heart has been injured, it can get stuck in a closed, like, no, we don't let anybody in. From that day, you'll hear people, they had some really traumatic experience, and their heart just got broken, or they were really badly treated by someone, and it hurt so much, because that when there's a lot of fire in a person, that's a lot of heart, that's a lot of feeling, and it's tender, right? I mean, there's a reason our heart is inside, deep inside, right? It has the protective rib cage and everything around it, right? It's tender, it needs protection. But what can happen for them then is that gate gets shut, and then we don't let anybody in, and you'll hear from that day on. And so if you meet someone and you recognize that they have a lot of fire in them, but they're ultra subdued and really, then that's just a sign that something somewhere, has gone awry.
Right.
And that gate may not be able to open the way that it should, because we should be able to open and allow in the people that we love and that we want to connect to and have that connection. And yet if it's stuck, that doesn't happen fully.
Right.
Now, another flip side to that is that gate can also get stuck open.
Right.
And then just anybody could walk in.
Right.
And this is, you'd see the people like, yes, I met him 3 days ago, and now we're getting married.
Yeah, I met a few people like that.
And just where they'd have like no sense of filtering the people that they let in so close.
Right.
So close. And, it can easily become kind of a doormat and just not, when people kind of come in and take advantage. So we need to be able to have that gate working properly. Mm-hmm. And again, conscious awareness of that quality gives us more choice. And then we can take a look at, have I had something come up where I closed that gate?
Right.
And that gate can be closed or open, in one of those positions differently in different areas of our life, right?
Right.
So it might be closed in certain relationships, and in other relationships, it's just wide open, and we've got the opposite problem.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to that. And it's so important because, what is life about? At that heart, connecting with other people. There's no area of our life that we don't need connection on some level, right?
I can see this being very important for all those entrepreneurs as well.
Oh yes. So
the right clients in, the right partners.
Right. And then if we get, I won't go long in this, but because I do whole programs on that.
Yeah.
But that very much affects how we market and speak and present our message. It affects how our appearance, how we visually present, and just so many different things. So it's really a really important piece. When I work with entrepreneurs, these are the first 3 things that we go through, because they're the movers that get us going. Right. And the most important areas for us to start with, we need all 5, right? But the water, wood, and fire are the ones that we need the most to get us going, and that we can so easily get kind of stuck with. And fire is all about that, being able to communicate and connect with people and share that love.
Mm-hmm. So just very briefly, the physical aspects of fire.
Right. So one is very subtle, and there are some that are pretty obvious. Okay. So red hair, that's an obvious sign of fire. Really curly hair.
Yeah.
Really curly hair.
I don't know anybody like that.
That also is not wavy, but curly. Okay.
Yeah.
That's another sign. Pointy aspects. So like if the inner part of the eye is very pointy, points on the eyebrows, the corners of the mouth, if they tend to end in real points. Sometimes the mouth ends and kind of like the line continues out a little bit. That's a really fiery sign. A pointy nose, freckles. And then one that you'll see again a lot with actors or people who are in the media is a cleft chin.
Right.
So, and in Chinese medicine, they actually call that a mark of a performer.
Okay.
So very common to see people who are in the public eye in one way or another have that mark.
Okay, cool. So it would be the next element then.
So after fire, we move on to earth. And, earth is all about taking that connection that we've just made and bringing it all in. So community, nurturing, gathering, come on, the big meal, it's mama, and for earth, that is one too that is divided up with yin and yang.
Okay.
And interestingly, with earth, it also has a third aspect to it, which is kind of like a core earth.
Okay.
And, we won't kind of go through all of those various today, but yin earth would be the really soft, kind of classic archetype would be that really soft earth mother, the mama who's got all the kids piled in her lap.
Right.
Taking care of everybody and lots of hugs and making everything okay. Did you get enough to eat? And oh, mama loves you, baby. Just all of that kind of good stuff. And we all love a good earth friend because they're there for you.
Right.
And I'm moving. Okay, they're there to help. They're just those wonderful salt of the earth people.
Right.
Now, yang earth is where yin earth is like, think of it as kind of like really soft garden soil, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yang earth is more like a mountain.
Right.
Okay, so it's still earth mama, but it's earth mama to a big group, you know.
Right.
Big organizations, check, you know, nations, got it. You know, this is a characteristic that can handle a lot of responsibility, and it is not happy without responsibility.
Right.
It's I must be working hard or my life is not satisfied.
Right.
It's very, very much an earthy characteristic, and they're so concerned with taking care of others and making sure people get what they need,
Mm-hmm.
and how people are treated, and fairness. Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
You need somebody to take up a cause, they're there for you. And they're going to work all day and get it done and
Right.
keep working until long after, you know, very much so.
So it's more on the higher, like, social level instead of more the familial or friend level.
Yes,
Little.
and it's, well, if you think about the kind of the difference with yin being more internal, you know, and the softer garden soil. So you can step on that garden soil and compress it really easily, right?
Right.
But if you step on a mountainside, it's not going to make a whole lot of difference.
Right.
Right? You know, because it's not the nature is just a little bit different. They're both earth.
Yeah.
Right? They're both earth. So one tends to be more softer, easier. The other can be a little harder to get through. So let's say it rains, right?
Mm-hmm.
That soft soil is going to soak up a whole lot more, right? Now that mountain, rain on the mountain is going to go right down the side, right? It takes a lot more to get through to that. So one of the, pardon me, one of the things that can happen with someone who has a lot of that mountain earth
Mm-hmm.
in their nature is there can be a real struggle around receiving.
Right.
And they're so good at working hard and being responsible and getting things done, but it's really, really hard for them to take in what they need because it's going out, going out, going out.
Right.
And thinking of others. And so a lot of people who have this aspect in their nature, oftentimes, and for both, and any of these earth elements, a lot of times this is an actual pattern in their life where they, for some reason, their mother wasn't able to nurture them the way that, you know, an archetypal mother would in childhood.
Right.
It wasn't there, or there was an issue that prevented that somehow.
Right.
So it can play out very literally in life.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they didn't, in that childhood, in those formative years, they didn't get the living experience of both giving and receiving.
Right.
So it's like a muscle that's just not well developed in them.
Right.
And so there can always be a kind of a challenge around that. So for someone who has a lot, especially of the mountain earth energy, great question to ask is, how could this be easier than I'm making it? You know, could it possibly be any easier? Is there some help available to me that I'm maybe not recognizing?
Right.
Because a lot of times what is actually help to a mountain personality will look like more work.
Right.
So it's kind of the paradox there. So you've got a project you're getting done and you're working really hard on it and you're like, there's no one to help me and it's all on my, you know, it's always all back to me to get it done. And yet, you know, you're just like, I got to work to get it done. And you've got people come up and say, well, what can I do? No, it's fine. I've got it.
Yeah.
You know, or no, because the thinking is it's more work to tell you what I need or have you do it or whatever. Mm-hmm. So help comes, but just like the water on the mountainside, it doesn't accept it in.
Right. So what would be the facial features of Earth?
Earth is about collecting things. So facial features on someone who has a lot of earth, we're going to see plumpness.
Okay.
You know, that's a good thing, right? You know, not everyone, this is not, thin drawn is not always great, right?
Right.
You know, so we'll see a good sized mouth.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody who has a tiny mouth is less earth in their nature. Someone who has full lips and a larger mouth, more earth in their nature.
Right.
and we'll see kind of a plumpness overall, really rounded eyebrows.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lovely earth feature. And just kind of that overallness. So like somebody could have either a small or a large nose, but there's plumpness to it, right? That type of thing.
So then we're moving on to the fifth element, which
Yes.
is metal, I believe.
Yay, metal.
Mm-hmm.
So with metal is all about raising up. This is the energy of moving up to what is sacred. And metal's job is to remind us of what is higher and sacred and divine, and to lift us up again.
Mm-hmm.
And see the stars and what can we shoot for next, and to appreciate the beauty and the miracle of life around us. And so it has very different qualities to it. It has great attention to detail, right? Because that's very important in those types of aspects. So usually someone who has a lot of metal in their personality, they'll have a lot of taste as far as the way things go. They'll be particular about how things are. So when you step into the house of someone who has a whole lot of metal, and they have they may have not a whole lot of furnishings, but very select things, or they could have more, but they're very artfully arranged, But you can trust that vase is on the table the way that it's on the table because they chose it to be that way.
Right.
And if you pick it up and move it, that's really going to drive them nuts. And a lot of them won't be able to help themselves but go and fix it back.
Right.
So they catch the pictures that are crooked on the wall and the typos in your sentence. And they also may be working very, very late at night because they put so much attention to detail in what they do that it can take them a long time to get it done.
Right.
Yeah. And that too can lead to overwhelm and procrastination and just, struggles of its own.
Yeah.
Because they can't stop and say, okay, that's good enough. Oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
No. So metal has a lot of times what we would refer to as enough issues.
Right.
They're very concerned about, is this good enough?
Right.
Is there enough of whatever it is? Will people, think that I am enough? So it's very concerned with respect, appreciation, and, both in what it gives out, but what it takes back. So if you insult a really metal friend, they will take that as a lack of respect.
Right.
And it may bother them immensely because of that.
Right.
Criticism is tough for people with metal. Think of it like acid, acid on metal, and it just eats right in, right? Yeah. And they can be very self-critical. They can be very critical of others as well, and criticism, or what they perceive to be criticism from others, can really eat at them.
Right.
And at the same time, they really benefit from reassurance and appreciation and, praise and yes, you get the gold star. You are doing well enough. And we're so happy with what you've done and everything. But think about this, right? Because that type of praise it's almost like a lubrication, right?
Okay.
But think about oil on metal and what happens. It slides right off.
Right.
Kind of similar to the mountain not letting the water sink in, Metal needs a lot of praise, but it needs it kind of in thicker quantities.
Okay.
Because it can easily slide off.
Right.
So if you've got a friend who has a lot of metal in their nature, those are things that you can, any genuine, of course, you want to be genuine, but any genuine compliments that you can give them and reassurance, they're going to love you for that.
Right.
Really going to appreciate.
So how would we recognize our metal friends?
So metal friends, in our facial features, what we'll see are very, very sculpted. Okay, so someone who has, say, very prominent cheekbones, that's a very metal sign.
Right.
And someone who has a prominent or large nose, it can be bony, or it can be have more plumpness to it. I've got a metal nose myself, but then there's some earth to it because it's not super bony, right? It's
Right.
got, so there's that. Very arched eyebrows, high eyebrows,
Mm-hmm.
and visible eyelids are another sign of metal in a face. So sometimes you'll see those people who just have that very kind of queenly, empirical look to them, and that's can be a sign of metal.
Okay. Cool. So we've gone through all the 5 elements, how they apply in our lives so we can recognize our friends. So that was a whole lot of information. So, whew, and it's just the surface.
It is, yeah.
Hoping that it's going to help anyone who sees this interview to know a little bit how the elements apply in their lives, and what they can do to activate different areas as well. So we want to make sure that they know how to reach you. So you have a website?
I do. They can find me at talkwithleah.com. And it's a website in progress, but there's always something new popping up on there. And that's the easiest way to get a hold of me, really.
Okay.
And then what's the Facebook page for the business? I think it's at Leah Nash Coach.
Okay.
But they can look it up there. So it's I've got the Holistic Business Makeover, those things. And there's a Facebook page specifically for that.
Okay. So talkwithleah.com, and I think they can schedule an appointment with you.
Yep.
Just from that page, and then the Facebook page as well. And I'll try to make sure that I put the links under this interview as well, so they can reach you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think just for a bit of a wrap up, we wanted to do a little bit of a case study. So,
yes.
And I'm the guinea pig.
Yes, let's talk about you. Okay. So we've got a couple of things. What we looked at your energetic elemental makeup,
Mm-hmm.
and interestingly, we get 3 aspects out of that. So
that's with the birth date again.
That's with the birth date, right? So that was the elements that were in play, kind of energetically at the time that we came into that cycle. So the 3 aspects that energetic makeup shows about us is kind of who we are overall, kind of our core, whole personality, how people, first react to us. Then it also shows us our inner sort of emotional nature. In Western psychology terms, we might refer to it as our inner child, right?
Mm-hmm.
That person that we kind of, that aspect of us we kind of shift into when we're under stress.
Okay.
So that's
a lot of that work too. What's our best self and our stressed self?
Yes. So I talk about that a lot. So our stress, we don't want our stressed self running the show. That's
right.
Having a 5-year-old make your major life decisions.
Yeah.
I love the 5-year-old. We just don't need to make it that decision for us. And then the third aspect that we get with that is what we would refer to as, in Chinese medicine, they might refer to it as our destiny. We might say our true calling or our life purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And bound up with that at the very same time is a life challenge.
Right.
So that we'll kind of be dealing with all through life.
Right.
And that life challenge and that inner child piece and even the core of us, all of that can kind of combine to be that stressed self.
Right.
Or with awareness, we can be more of that best self. So not just a higher version of us, but really being able to choose from that whole spectrum,
mm-hmm.
that elemental characteristic, and kind of be the best of us that we really want to be.
So very empowering.
It is. Now, interestingly, because there are 5 elements, right, and actually gets broken down into 9 when we split with yin and with wood and all that stuff. So of those possibilities for you, instead of coming out as 3 separate elements, we actually get the same one pretty much all the way through.
Mm.
And guess which one that is?
A little bit of fire, a little bit of mountain. Yeah.
Mountain, baby, all the way through. So, that's really an interesting thing. So it's, that's something that's good to know. As you are building out your business and everything, you don't need to worry about whether you can do it because you're so responsible and so resourceful. You can totally get it done. You're here to serve many many people. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to limit yourself. If you want to go big, it's there for you, right? Now, in addition to that, the qualities, and I'm looking at your face now, so bear with me while I'm looking down, but we see a bit of the fire comes in, right?
Yeah.
Right? And we've got freckles too, as we see some of that. The eyebrows are actually fairly straight. There's a little bit to them, but pretty straight. So we get some wood showing up there as well. And there's water that shows in the face, kind of the overall face structure. So when we come and look at your face, we combine still some earthy elements, but also with fire and some wood thrown in there and with some water. So we've got a lovely combination of that really hardworking, responsible, resourceful individual who can do,
Mm-hmm.
and just be there for so many people. So you're here to serve in that way. But you have a lot of creativity, a lot of intuition, a lot of imagination, so creative sources at the ready for you, and enough wood that's going to help you be in action and making change for yourself and for others. That's the drive of wood, is to make the world a better place, right? That's what that drive is for. So it brings all of those things together, and it's really an ideal mix for who you are and the work that you're bringing forth. So we can see how that work would very naturally spring from someone with those characteristics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and asking for help, which is a challenge. I'm working on that, and this is one of the reasons why I have this house, is because with your counsel, I opened myself to receiving some help and some financial help, which I would never do before. I was close to receiving help because I'm Miss Independent here. I can do it myself. And because you counseled me with that, I was able to receive the help in a way that is not, because it would have been a defeat for me,
right,
to accept help before, because it's like, I'm not good enough. So that's probably some, it's like, why can't I do this myself? It's just, I'm not good enough. I need to receive the help. There's something missing. But now it's just like, no, this is where I am in my cycle. In terms of the seasons too, because we haven't talked about the seasons, that element as well. And just about opening myself up for help without the guilt, with a lot of compassion, and things happened in a season.
Yeah.
Which is totally magical. Like, who else sells a house in 7 hours, right? It's magic.
That was awesome. So
yeah.
I was really thrilled for that. And yeah, that really came out of our conversation where we were talking about, in particular, the season that you are in. So depending on what that energetic makeup is for an individual will determine where they are in the cycle of seasons.
Yeah.
And for you right now, this is early in a new season, but it's or a new cycle, but it's also a season that is very much one where you're kind of, it's not quite springtime, you're coming out of winter and you're kind of in this in-between space. Mm-hmm. So it's an earth year, it's yin earth year. So things are softening up and they're opening up, and it's a great time to be receiving, and life tends to bring helpers to you in that time, right? And that was one of the things that we had talked about in that conversation, was to look for people who might be bringing you help that you might otherwise just kind of dismiss ordinarily. But could they be, offering you something that would make it easier for you instead of harder?
Yeah.
Because a classic for that 8 mountain is, one of the classics that my mentor taught me was that, this is a person that hops in the boat to row across the lake, and they've got the anchor down the whole time. Mm-hmm. Just, if there's a hard way
to make it, I'm paddling.
If there's a hard way to do it, they will find it. And yet that's one of the great things about that mountain nature, is because while they learn through struggle, they get great value from the things that they learn. So if we think about that mountain, and in the mountain there's a cave, right? And if we go through the cave, there are gems. That's where the treasure is, right? And so this mountain is able to, mine that out and then bring it out and share it with others. So yeah, they learn through struggle, but what they get from that is so transforming, and then they bring it and share it with others. Yeah. And it's it's a good thing. It's just such.
And I love how that image is so close to the profiling that I do with the soul profile in the Akashic Records.
Yeah.
In the Akashic Records are 8 energy centers. We have all 8 energy centers, but express 1 or 2 in majority. And mine is divine wisdom. And it's about helping others see that wisdom within themselves.
Yeah.
So I love how it correlates different ways to see the world.
Right.
It all makes sense.
Yeah, it really does. And, you know, that mountain is so much about teaching, you know, and sharing. So divine wisdom, absolutely. You know, imparting that wisdom with others. That's a lovely thing.
Thank you so much for spending this hour with us. And this was a lovely chat. I'm pretty sure that we'll follow this up later on, talking about the seasons, going just a little bit deeper in the elements, and especially for business women as well, because we both want to help business women grow their businesses from the inside out. I think that we both believe that a business is an extension of oneself, and it's a way to express our inner spirituality.
Right.
So maybe next time we can talk about that a little bit more.
That would be awesome. You know, and one of the things when I work with business people is not only do we work with your elemental design, but your business has one too.
Right.
So and then a lot of times it can be very different than your own. So we're able to work with both of those, and there's just so much to it. And this has been lovely. And yeah, just a tiny teaspoon of really of what that ocean of 5 elements is, but it's such powerful stuff.
Thank you again. So just to repeat, so to get in contact with you, it's talkwithleah.com, and you can find me at deliberatesoulcreation.com. So thanks everyone. See you soon. Much love. Bye.